Welcome to the Think Fitness Life podcast, your one-stop shop for exploring the connections between fitness, health, and overall well-being. Join us as we dive deep into all aspects of a balanced and vibrant life, from pushing your limits in the gym to finding peace of mind outside of it. Whether you're a seasoned athlete or just starting your journey, you are in the right place to discover the knowledge and insight to perfect your fitness life.
We are back once again with the Think Fitness Life podcast. Today I am with Casey, a former cancer survivor and stroke survivor herself, who is now a personal coach to individuals with cancer, a nutritionist, a yoga instructor for trauma individuals, and she's here today to share her personal story of overcoming and perseverance. So welcome, Casey. Thanks for agreeing to do this.
Well, thank you for having me. I genuinely appreciate it.
Oh, we appreciate it too. I think someone with your history and story is just so unique, and I find that we can all get kind of tripped up on our own mentality, kind of stuck in our own ways, and sometimes just hearing another person's success story can, especially when they're up against such tough situations, can be inspiring and help people kind of continue on. So where would you like? About it. Where would you like us to start with your story today?
We can start at the beginning, I guess. I was 31 years old when I was diagnosed with cancer, and it came out of nowhere, to be honest. I mean, not nowhere, but nowhere. It wasn't something that at 31 I knew something was going on, but right, exactly. No one prepares you for that.
Now, did you have a family history of?
No,
nothing. Yeah.
None. No. So I didn't know anyone. I didn't have any family history of cancer. So at 31 being diagnosed, it was like a shock and awe moment. And because of my diagnoses of acute lymphoblastic leukemia, the protocol is extremely aggressive. They basically, because it's a blood cancer, throw the kitchen sink at it of chemotherapy.
Yeah. So
they hospitalize you the first 30 days of treatment because you're getting so much chemotherapy.
Yeah. So what symptoms were you feeling? Like you basically go from feeling something weird, you go to the doctor, and then all of a sudden you're in this like hospital quarantine treatment. Probably happened so fast.
It did. In hindsight, in retrospect, there was a lot of things that I was ignoring or attributing to stress at work and stress with life. And, I did something at the gym. I did, making excuses basically. But what I was really feeling was lower back pain. I was really tired. I was having night sweats, like all things that you can attribute to too many blankets. Stress at work. I lifted something wrong.
Yeah. Easily write them off.
Right. Like nothing that was so obvious that you would be like, you need to go to the doctor right now. It wasn't until I went to the doctor because I felt like a node on my neck and I was like, I don't want to get strep. It was like right around the holidays. I was like, I want to nip this in the butt. Right.
Yeah. Well.
And that's when he gave me 10 days of antibiotics and said, come back in 2 weeks. So I stopped the antibiotics on a Monday. I came back on a Friday during my quote unquote lunch break, and I was planning to go back to work. But that's when all my symptoms basically exploded, like the ones that would really cause somebody to stop and go, I need to go to the doctor. Like I was getting extremely pale, like looking like the white of my wall. Like my coworkers were very concerned. They were like, are you okay? And I was like, I think so. I'm fine. I think I'm just iron deficient.
Yeah.
I started having more intense night sweats to the point where I would sweat through a shirt, change it, and then sweat through the next one, not thinking anything was wrong still. Then I started to bruise everywhere all over my body. Like I would touch something and I'd have a giant bruise. Huh. The last symptom that appeared was I would blow my nose and big giant clots of blood would come out. And I was like, that's not
Ooh,
normal.
yeah. And
Yeah, that one was the one that was like, something's going on here.
so wait, did that happen at work and you went on your lunch break to the hospital or like emergency care and
No, I went back to the ENT because I was like, I have a
okay.
follow-up appointment. It's no big deal.
Oh gosh. Oh god.
Right? Because at 31, you don't expect something
Any
that
severe,
severe to be
right.
happening.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
So I went back, and obviously the ENT was like, he didn't really red flag it, but he was like, I think you need to go see an internist.
Yeah.
And he goes, let me call over there and see if I can get you an appointment. And I was like, I have to go back to work. Like, literally, like, that's what I was thinking. And I was like, kind of annoyed. I was like, I don't really want to do this. I need to go back to work. Like, it's Friday. I want to go home. Like,
I don't care about my health. I just need to work. That's what I'm here to do.
right? Like, how crazy is it in hindsight? But so I walked over to the internist, which was in a different building. At the time I walked in, the waiting room was full, and I walked right into an exam room, and I knew, I was like, that's not normal. I
Yeah.
was like, something's going on that they're obviously concerned about.
Yeah.
But again, not thinking it was cancer.
So then, you started this treatment in the hospital. I mean, how
Mhm.
many days were you just in the hospital?
The first day I was in there for 28 days, but I got out 2 days early because I promised to come back for whatever appointments they had scheduled, which I basically was at the hospital 4 days a week, almost every day,
Yeah.
like after that for the next couple months. And, everything, we were trucking along with treatment and all of the things. And 4 months into my treatment, I ended up having a stroke
Yeah.
and seizures.
Yeah. That's,
And
I mean, add insult to injury, literally. So, but
yeah,
back up really quick. What was it like to be essentially quarantined for a month in the hospital?
um, mentally, that was hard because you're not really sleeping in the hospital anyways.
Right.
You're constantly being poked and prodded. You're like, you don't have efficacy over your body, your time, or anything, right? So mentally, it was like shifting it to a completely different gear. And the first couple of days, because it was over the weekend, the normal rotation doctors are not on staff, so you're being shuffled to all these appointments, like exams, like they're doing CT, pulmonary, heart, all of these exams on you, but you're not really being told like the
What's
full
going
story.
on?
Yeah, because no, the doctor's not really there. They're just trying to like literally get all of the information basically
Right.
first. So that Monday, I'd been in the bed, my hospital bed for like, I didn't get up unless I was using the bathroom. So that Monday, we found out basically what everything was. And I started chemotherapy right away before they even had like the official results of my bone marrow biopsy back
Yeah.
because they were 99.9% sure. So they were like,
That
we need to do
to
this sooner
start
rather.
treatment. Yeah. Yeah. Did they
Yeah.
tell you what stage it was in when they found it?
So my cancer doesn't have stages, but
Okay.
they did say it was really aggressive,
Okay.
and they were really concerned that I had a certain chromosome called Philadelphia, because if you have Philadelphia, it makes it that much harder to treat.
Okay.
Um, and so that's what their main concern was, which I didn't have, thankfully. Not that it made my treatment any easier.
Any easier, yeah. Well, then, what was the status of your cancer 4 months later prior to the stroke? Was it already starting to go away or and being treated?
No, so I was not in remission. It took my cancer 9 months to get into remission. When usually people within the first phase get into remission, and my body just was like, no, we really like producing cancer. Why would we do that? And I joke, but like if we can't joke about it, like you kind of lose your mind.
Yeah.
But in the hospital, like, you don't have control over your time. But the one thing they told me was like, if you want to go home, you have to like be able to walk upstairs and be able to like function on your own without help. So, that's what you need to work towards. And because my husband at the time and my dad know me very well, there's a whiteboard and they were like, we need to get you walking on the floor. So they put a time and how far I went. And they were like, you're doing it twice a day. And so it was like beating the time and beating the distance every time to work my stamina back up, because you'd be so shocked. Like in 3 days, I lost like all my muscle mass, all my stamina, I was just like, it took me the first time to walk around the floor.
Well, the chemo too, right? Also knocks you down a peg.
Yeah, you're like exhausted from everything that they're doing. And again, not sleeping, right? So
Right.
like you're just like worn out to a degree that you didn't know existed.
Yeah. And this is all after like a month of inactivity being in the hospital, of the initial diagnosis.
Right, basically. So, in order to get out, they were like, you need to be able to function on your own enough to be not independent, but independent, right? Unless you want a full-time caregiver, and I was not interested in that. So I did that, worked my way back up to like actually like being able to like walk around like a floor, like a mile or on the floor and everything like that. So when I got out, like I said, everything was trucking along, treatment, all the things. And I had this massive stroke where I lost half the function in my body on my left side.
Wow. Doesn't look like that
And
now.
oh no. But when it happened, I didn't know this at the time. I was told this after the fact, because you don't really know what's going on when you have a stroke. They put me in a medically induced coma for 3 days, and I had no idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I thought it was like an hour that I was out. Like I had no clue.
Yeah.
I just woke up and I was like, what happened? And why can't I move half my body? And why does it hurt so badly? Like I was genuinely confused. And talk about a humbling experience to
wake up to that.
Yeah. At 31, and to be not able to even sit up on your own was so, I don't even know there's no words. Like you just are like, what happened? You like literally are just like, what happened?
Yeah.
And
no memory of anything happening. It just, right.
Yeah.
Do you have any memory of what's your last memory leading up to the stroke?
So the big last memory I have is basically I was in the hospital, thankfully, and I think this is what actually helped my recovery, is because I was able to get treatment so quickly. I just happened to be in the hospital because I was having an allergic reaction to something they gave me. And my husband at the time is looking at me and he goes, smile. And I'm really angry because I don't want to be in the hospital. It's like the last place I want to be. And I'm like, I am. And he goes, no, smile. And I go, I am. And I'm like yelling at him. And he just calmly walks out the room, walks back in, sits back down. And I'm like, what happened? And the next thing I remember is like nurses just coming into the room. And then I blacked out.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I woke up in the ICU.
Yeah. That is absolutely wild. So when you woke up from that, how long did it take you before you could even stand again?
So the standing part, probably a couple more days. The sitting up part, it took 2 days. The standing part was just basically like sheer will of not wanting to use a bedpan, to be honest.
Yeah.
So it was like just grit and determination of like, that's not how I'm going to use the restroom. So what do I need to do to get to the bathroom? And they were like, well, you need to be able to like stand. And I was like, okay, we're doing that. And I mean, I had help, like, and my husband or the nurse was always helping me. But that was definitely not a place at 31 I thought I would be at. Like,
Yeah.
I think at night, I was like, at some point, we all know we're going to need help, but definitely not at 31.
Right. For standing or walking or something as simple as using the restroom, something that, I might take for granted, hearing your story. So like, how long did it take you before, I mean, first of all, I want to just highlight something. I love that fork in the road you were at of like, I'm not choosing that. I'm not gonna have to go down that road. I'm not doing that. I'm gonna fight and go this road so that I can use the restroom by myself. And I think that's such a major inflection point because you made such a definitive choice. And I think that makes a big difference in terms of your actions and the resulting conclusion. So, but then how long before you could get back to your laps in the hospital and stairs?
That took a while. So after I was in the ICU, I was admitted into a rehabilitation hospital.
Okay.
And I was there for 2 weeks, and it took me to be able to independently walk. That took about 7 days for me to independently walk. It was a lot of rehab for that.
Mhm.
And when you're put in a position where you aren't expected to be at in your life, you really do have this other gear that you didn't know you had. And I had this epiphany where I was sitting there, and as my husband at the time was dressing me, and I'm going, I just need to be able to put on my sock and tie my shoe. Because after that, if I can put on my sock and tie my shoe, it means my fingers are working. It means I can balance, right? So like all these dots started clicking in my head. I was like, okay, if I can put on my sock and tie my shoe, it means I have balance. It means I can move my fingers enough, even if I can't like do all the things like enough to tie a shoe. I'm like, then I can get out and I can actually like start like doing more. So like that epiphany was really like, just keep going. And it is a lot of grit. It's a lot of determination. It's a lot of just like, no, I only have an hour with you, but what else can I do on my own? Like that's like, I'm not settling for this. This is not okay for me. This minimum is not enough. And I think if I would have looked at it as a whole of, oh my God, I have to like be able to run and cook and all these things, I think I would have collapsed under the pressure.
Right. But you really only could look at what was right in front of you. And I think that's so powerful to just be like, I just gotta be able to tie my shoes, just gotta be able to stand up, just gotta be able to move my fingers. But your will to survive is very palpable. I mean, a lot of people I think would get stuck in the kind of the mindset of like, well, who cares? Why would I need to worry about this anyway? Like, what am I going to do when I get out of here? But you already had this like, I need to get out of here. There's so much life to be lived outside of this hospital. I need to get out of here. And that, I think that sheer will that came out of you had such a profound impact on your path. So then when did it evolve into you kind of working out and going down the road of personal coaching? And like, what's the timeline for that from being able to walk again to inspiring others to lift weights? And
that was honestly some time afterwards. So like my entire journey of cancer lasted almost 5 years. I relapsed a couple more times. I was put in a precarious position of having to write letters of compassion to the FDA and drug manufacturers for compassionate care, which is basically like you're going to die and we're going to try this. And if it works, great. If not, like, at least it was not for anything, nothing. So after that, you know, long story short is like, I really struggled mentally and emotionally with recovery. Physically, I knew I was like, okay, I just need to like build muscle, create endurance, all of those things, like basic steps, right? But the mental and emotional part was where I struggled. And I basically like had a nervous breakdown. And I was like, I need to figure this out because I'm not going to make it if I don't. And again, when my back's up against a wall, I like a rat in a cage will claw my way out in whatever way I can.
Do you mind diving into some of those mental, emotional pieces that you're talking about? I mean, was it like survivor guilt?
It was a little bit of survivor guilt, but it was mostly like, number one, what the F did I just go through? Number two, like my life that I had planned out is completely gone. What was the purpose of going through all this? And why did I live versus somebody else? Like, why is my life more important than somebody else's? Right?
Yeah,
Like all
yeah.
these things that you're like, I don't know what to do with this.
Right.
And that really like took its toll on me. And I was searching for answers, to be honest, of
Like, why? What's my
yeah,
purpose? Yeah.
yeah, you know, especially after so many of the people that were surrounding me were not making it, and people genuinely in my position who relapse a third time don't make it.
Yeah.
And I knew the statistics, and I every time my oncologist, I saw her, she would still tell me, like a year later, she'd grab my shoulder, and this is every visit. Baby girl, we're just lucky you're alive. Like, what?
Yeah.
You know, and to have like an oncologist tell you that, it just, you're like, oh, I was in a situation that is very different than everyone else.
Yeah.
And that just like, it felt like there was a lot of pressure to like do something with that. And I was like, I just, work wasn't fulfilling me. You know, I needed something outside of that. And it just felt like this mountain that I needed to climb mentally, even though I had just like climbed one.
Yeah. Yeah. You climbed one physically for sure. Well, and mentally and emotionally for sure. But yeah, it just sounds like, you went through this major life experience, and coming out of it, it like kind of reevaluate. You couldn't go back to life the same way. You couldn't go back to your old life the same way. You almost had to reestablish new groundings and new foundations, new purposes, new paths, and you had to crash course that. You had to do all that very fast.
Oh,
So
100%.
so what was kind of the aha moment? What was the thing that like sunk your teeth in, like, this is it?
So like there was one pivotal moment. I came home from work, I dropped my bag on the floor and I just crumbled to the ground and cried. Ugly cried. And my husband was like, "What happened at work?" And I was like, "Nothing at work." I was like, you know, my reality was not meeting my expectations of surviving.
Yeah.
Everyone kept telling me, every survivor I met in 5 years was like, life is going to be great once you're done. Just keep going. Just, it gets better. And I was like, this feels worse than that. Like, I don't feel better. I feel worse. And I
Yeah.
don't know what to do with that. So that night, I told him for the first time, I admitted, I was like, I am not okay. I'm so far from okay that I don't even know what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
crying and I was like hysterical. I locked myself in the bathroom, and he ended up actually calling my dad and his mom to come over. And I was like mortified. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed of how I felt because no one talked about how hard it is surviving when I was talking to anyone. And I was like, would have been nice to have a little heads up. But
Now, were
So
you
that
talking to
night,
other people in the hospital who are also going through different cancer treatments, or these are other people you connected with who had the same cancer that you had?
I was going to, every time I would meet a survivor, whether it was my cancer or different cancer, everyone just kept saying, like, "It gets better when you're done."
Mm.
Like, especially I met a group of, like, breast cancer survivors, and they were like, "Don't worry, you're gonna be fine when it's over." And I was like, "I think they lied to me because I'm not fine."
Yeah, right. Well, when's that fine
And
coming? When's it gonna happen?
right? I was like, "How long do I have to wait? Because I don't know if I'm gonna make it." And that night, as I was ugly crying in front of my dad, in front of my mother-in-law, in front of my, husband, in the face down in a pillow, my dad's going, "It's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be okay." And I'm like, I literally said back to him, I go, "It's not okay, and I'm not going to be okay." And he goes, "No, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine, right?" Like, and that night is like, I made a decision in my head. I go, "You're either gonna figure this out or you're not making it. So you're gonna figure it out. Your back's up against the wall again. You're gonna figure it out."
I love it. I love it.
And it was like, put your big girl pants on and do the flipping work is basically like what I had to tell myself.
Yeah, yeah,
And the next day I woke up, I went to work, even though my mother-in-law and my husband were like, "Don't go to work." And I was like, "No, I honestly don't think I did an ounce of work that day because what I was doing was putting a plan together, a very messy, ugly, imperfect plan of like, how am I going to get better? Because
yeah,
the hospital has nothing for me. I don't know how to get better. I've never been in this situation before,
yeah, yeah.
but I need to figure it out." So
And this
it was like
plan
one
is
of
like
those things.
the plan of action for yourself, for like taking
Mhm.
care of your health, you time.
All of it,
Yeah,
right? Like, how do I, I was eating really well at that point anyways, but like, what do I really need to do?
yeah,
What do I really need to do for physical recovery? Because yes, I am in a better position, but now I'm postmenopausal and all these things, and all I know about menopause is weight gain and hot flashes. Like, that's not helpful.
right.
Um, and maintaining a healthy weight is like really one of the factors in preventing cancer. So it's like I know all these things, but how do I logistically do that? And then on top of that, like, what do I do with this mental piece and this emotional piece that I'm feeling, right? Like, how do I figure that out? So it was like literally like I started researching, I started reading every freaking self-help book that you can get your hands on. Like, I started taking courses and programs that I'm like, I don't know what this is, but like I learned something, I'll figure it out. Like, I
Yeah.
went and got certified in happiness because I was like, I don't know, there's a course on it. Let's take it and find
Let's
out.
take it. Maybe we can absorb something from it. Right.
Right? I'm not happy. That's about happiness. Like, let's do it. Um, and it was by Harvard, so I was like, it's got to be or Yale or one of those institutes, and I was like, it's got to be legitimate, you know.
So like you
And
said, you're
so
kind of
like,
at a point where you're like, I'll just throw everything at the wall and I'm going to see what sticks.
yeah,
It
I
sounds like you were
basically
like a
turned,
sponge just soaking up everything.
yeah, anything that I could get my hands on, I was trying, even if it wasn't working.
So this led you more into learning more of nutrition for yourself first. And did you do like, were you working out in the gym? Did you get you were doing your yoga at this time?
Yeah, so I was
Yeah.
doing yoga and I was back to lifting weights because I knew like chemotherapy and radiation impact your bone health. And I was like, well, I know strength training is what helps improve it, or at least stops what
The
I know is
degradation.
osteoporosis. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was like,
And did you
well, I'm
have
on the right.
movement on both sides of your body still like evenly, or was there still kind of like a weakness on one side?
My left side was still extremely week, and like even now it's still not 100%. Like, I can hold a pot with my a boiling pot of water with my right hand. I can't do that with my left still.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
just strength imbalances that no matter how hard I work on it, I don't know if it'll ever get there, but I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to stop lifting weights because it's not the same,
Right. It's amazing
you
that just
know.
looking at you on camera, like it doesn't seem like you have any limitations on one side or the other. And I feel like most stroke victims, like they just get like kind of that droop side, even that side of their face, they get that Bell's palsy and they just like can't even move that side of their body. But yeah, it's amazing. It doesn't seem like you have any limitations from here. But maybe if I watched you hold a boiling pot of water, I would recognize it.
Right. Like I hide it well too. Like, that helps. But also like I continue to try to build that strength, right? Just because I can't do it for a long period of time doesn't mean I don't try to do it.
Right.
And then I switch, right? Like I still give it a go before going, yeah, it's not gonna work. It's gonna drop.
Right. Like it still sounds like you really attack your weaknesses. It almost like it sounds like from day one you attacked your treatment path of like, well, this is how I'm have to go this way because I'm not going to be going to the bathroom with help. And then your body got better, but the emotional, mental aspect kicked in and you had to kind of go through that hitting rock bottom. But it was another one of like, I'm not choosing, I'm doing all these things to attack this situation. But I do want to kind of get to some of like the keys to success that you feel like were the most impactful to your success.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that number one, I just always thought, what can I do, right? Like, what action can I take to help the situation? I can't help what the side effects make me do. But, if I throw up, I throw up, but I never let that stop me, right? Like there were times where I would literally be walking, pulling over to the side off the sidewalk, holding onto a tree going, I think I'm going to throw up. And then going, oh, no, it passed. And then keep going, right? Like if I throw up in the middle of the street, who cares? Like, I don't care what Joe Blow thinks, like who's watching me throw up on the street. I knew that I had control over certain things, and those are the things that I leaned on. And I was like, I thought of it as a team sport, right? If my medical team is trying to do everything they can to make me better, how can I participate in that as well? I can eat better. I can get sleep. I can show up to every appointment. I can walk. I can try to participate in every way.
Yeah. That's so powerful. Because so many people want to defer the responsibility to others. They don't want that burden on themselves.
But I felt like I needed that because mentally, I knew I was in it for the long haul. Like, I knew that I had to participate in some way. Like, I couldn't sit back and just let things happen to me.
Looking for personalized workout plans? Whether you prefer to train at home or hit the gym, try a 14-day free trial of the Think Fitness Life mobile app. Get customized workouts, nutrition guidance, and coaching from a qualified professional who will be in your corner every step of the way. Visit www.thinkfitnesslife.com to start your free trial today. That's www.thinkfitnesslife.com.
Yeah.
And I think that's the mindset is like, I have efficacy over my body still to a certain degree. And I'm going to just manage the things that happen inside of it, right? But I'm also going to do all of the things to help the cause, right? Like, I'm not going to sit there and just eat chocolate and garbage and fast food. That doesn't make me feel better. But what are the things that do, right? Knowing that I'm helping versus hurting, knowing that I can walk every day, knowing that I can try to get normal sleep hours, which is still challenging. But, I knew all of these things. So it's like, well, why wouldn't I participate?
Yeah.
I never looked at it like as in like, I'm the victim and this happened to me and I'm going to sit back and just allow these things to keep happening to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel like that was a mindset that was kind of carved out of you because of what happened to you? Or was that something that kind of always had been there?
I think a little bit of it always had been there. You know, I didn't grow up in the most supportive environments, so to
Well, trying to
speak. And
kind of
so I,
fend for yourself a little bit more.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of survival in childhood. So that definitely helped. But this is something that even if you had that, no one's prepared for.
Right.
um, it pushes you to limits that you didn't know you had because you're so physically unwell. Mentally, it's even harder.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like
Um,
from an outsider looking in, like some of the hardest stresses in our lives make for the most strongest resilience, and whether that's physically or mentally. And I just want to learn, and for our listeners, like, what are some of the major life lessons that you take away from this whole experience that you'd like to share?
I think one big one is that we are in constant negotiation with ourselves, right? We are. Like, there were so many times where I started walking and I was like, everything in my body hurts to a degree that I've never experienced before, where you're just like everything hurts. Moving my head hurts. Like, you know, and so you're in constant negotiation with, yeah, is it easier to sit on the couch and do nothing all day? For sure. 100%.
Yeah.
And no one would have faulted me for doing that. But personally, I was like, that doesn't make me feel better. What's going to make you feel better? You know, you do feel like poop now, but you're still going to feel like poop whether you go for a walk or not. But it does make you mentally feel better. So do the thing, right? So it's like, and I would always give myself the permission, like, if you go a block and you don't feel good, you can always turn back. I go, but you're at least going a block. Sure enough, like I keep going. Like it wasn't like I just stopped and turned around. I just kept going on my normal walk. And so that's something that I teach my clients too. Is like, just do it for the first 5 minutes. If you still want to give up after 5 minutes, but it's 5 more minutes of movement that you didn't have the day before, or 10 more minutes. Sure enough, 90% of my clients go, I finished the workout. I go, yeah, see? Like,
Because you made it in that digestible step for them. You help them overcome that barrier of paralysis to just take that first step.
right.
Speaking of clients, what is some advice you'd have for somebody who's listening who maybe hasn't started their journey and thinking about it, or just started their journey?
Well, number one, there's never a right time and there's never going to be a right moment for any start of anything in life. So I always say start before you're ready and take the first action step, right? Don't look at the big picture sometimes. Just the first action step, right? Like,
Yeah,
even if that means like just signing up for a gym, putting on workout clothes, pretending you're going to go work out that day. Like, we have to shift the mindset, right?
yeah,
You can do anything. Your body is extremely resilient and you can do anything for 30 seconds. So do it for 30 seconds. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to hurt, but it's going to make you feel better. Right.
I love that quote. Start before you're ready. That's really good.
Yeah.
So from surviving yourself to honing in on your survival mentality, honing in on choice and negotiation. Um, you coach now. Where can people go to find you, or how do people get in touch with you?
So
And,
I'm
and is
on
there a specialty that you work with?
it's mostly cancer related as far as whether you're in treatment or out of treatment, it's mental, physical, and emotional wellness, right? Like, how can we be healthier? Whether it's the habits that got us here, or, I have a lot of clients who've never worked out for the first time, or who are working out and want to get back to that, and so the range is all across the board. But a lot of it is the mental and emotional piece because that is the hardest part of surviving.
Yeah.
And you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at The Happier Hustle.
And I'll be sure to include those links in the show notes. But yeah, I mean, the mental emotional piece is also the aspect that you don't get coached on in the hospital. So it's great that you became what you were looking for in your moment of darkness.
Yeah,
So
trust me, I would have paid anything to find someone like me. Like, I would
yeah,
have given my life for it.
yeah. I'm sure you're a godsend to people who are going through it, in the thick of it and reaching out for someone to help. So that's great that you became that person now. What's your favorite lift in the gym or favorite thing to do for exercise?
Oh my gosh. So I really love squatting because it's something that it's like, wow, I can have this much weight on my back and support myself. Like this
Yeah,
is incredible.
yeah.
Um, it's
Really
just so
instills confidence when you can stand out
yeah.
of the squat. Yeah.
hmm There's something so powerful about that to go, I can lift this.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Um, that's just like you're so many things have to be working at one at the same time, and so it just makes you feel so good. So that's my favorite.
And it's one of the best exercises out there. So that's great.
Yeah,
Do you have a favorite quote or maybe that one that comes to mind after today's interview?
I have a lot, but the one that has
You can list a
resonated with
couple. You can list more than one. That's fine. I'm a big quote
uh,
person.
uh, the one that resonates a lot with me, that I'm going to share with you is, we repeat what we don't repair. And that goes with like, our habits. That goes with like mentally, emotionally, physically. If we don't repair it, we are going to repeat it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so crucial for the thought patterns, right? I mean, we get stuck in these problems with our thought patterns and we think that we can just avoid it or push it away or turn up the music louder, whatever it may be. But right, if we don't repair that perspective, that emotion that we hold on to, it's going to repeat. It's going to continue to
Mhm.
repeat like a
Yep.
bad record player. So what are some of your other favorite quotes? You were saying that you're a
Oh
big
my
quote.
gosh.
Yeah.
I am. I love them. I have so many. The other
Because
one
if we were
is
going to trade back and forth for ones that came to
yeah.
mind for your story was you either get busy living or you get busy dying.
Mhm. Mhm. That's a great
That's
one from
that's
Shawshank.
yep.
Another great Shawshank one is you have to climb through a river of shit to come out clean on the other side.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good one
Mhm.
too. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, you're just the sheer will to survive is the word that term that kept popping in my brain. I hear of so many people who just kind of sit down and take it and listen to everything that the doctors have to say, which isn't a bad thing, but you do have to kind of take things with a grain of salt and remember that there's a portion of things that are in your wheelhouse. And I think that was so critical that you highlighted that earlier, just recognizing what is in my choice, like what is in my realm of possibilities that I'm in control of, and I'm going to focus on those situations. And I think that does wonders for people because we can get stuck in kind of like this paralysis with extra analysis when we look at too many things. Like you said, if you were sitting there thinking about like one day I'm going to have to lift weights and do yoga, you would never get there. But you just thought, I just need to stand up, I need to tie my shoes, and need to get through today. I think that's just so
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah.
Well,
I always
Casey,
say
oh, sorry, go
it's
ahead, go ahead.
about it's not about looking at the top of the mountain, it's just looking at the bottom and the first step.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The best thing about the future is it comes one day at a time.
Yeah.
Well, Casey, thank you so much. Your story is extremely inspiring. I'm over here like, sorry, got cut out for a second. Yeah, I'm
Sorry.
just like kind of tearing up over your story. It's really profound
Mm.
and powerful. And I mean, we took your story and condensed it down to 40 minutes, but to understand, that this happened to you over a period of 5 years, and just having to
Mhm.
have that endurance, like you said all these things of, how you should look at things and how you should behave, and it's easy to do in a momentary aspect, but to have to do that consistently over, a 5-year period, I mean, says a lot. So thank you so much for sharing your story. And I hope people out there listening are inspired to take control of their situation and make the changes they want to see in their life.
Well, thank you so much for allowing me to come on and share it with you and your audience. I genuinely appreciate it. And yeah, we can all, we all learn from each other's stories. It's how we learn.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Casey.